Back on the Nation at 5, and we told you we're trying to connect with Shri Chandra Arya, Member of Parliament in Canada, who was very critical of the attack at the Gauri Shankar Mandir in Brampton. Chandra Arya ji is with us. Namaste. Thank you very, very much. It's wee hours in Canada, I know that, and I appreciate your time, Mr. Arya. You've been very critical about the attack at the Gauri Shankar Mandir.
Yeah, the attack on Gauri Shankar Mandir actually is part of the recent spate of attacks on Hindu temples by certain groups. We can see this in from two angles. One, the increasing Hindu phobia, which is very prevalent online, as the study had predicted. From online hatred, it is coming down to the physical attacks. And the first line of attacks are the symbols of Hinduism. They are the Hindu temples. Now, these groups have also been joined by the traditional anti-India groups in Canada, who wants to rile up the Hindu-Canadian community and want to, I think at the broader goal is to sabotage the desire of Canada to further strengthen relations with India.
Mr. Arya, do you also believe there is a design to separate or de-link Sikhism from Hinduism? And because large members of the Indian diaspora belong to either of these two communities, these forces are deliberately trying to do this? And is this at the instance of certain other elements who closer to India, who have nothing but animosity here, and who have a secessionist design, who want to carve out a certain portion of our own country? That is India.
The relationship between the Hindu community and the Sikh community in Canada is strong. However, there is always a small group which wants to create a divide because of their designs against India. They want to carve out a portion of India into their own homeland. So there is an attempt to instigate the people of Indian origin here in Canada for their own, own purpose.
Mr. Arya, do these elements, these criminals, these vandals, do they enjoy political patronage?
I don't think so. However, in any democracy, everything is politics. Every local issue, from how the streets are maintained to the national issues, there is always politics involved. They may not have overly visible political patronage, but I do suspect there is some local level of politics involved.
It's the Gauri Shankar Mandir, which is situated in Brampton, Canada, Canadian soil. Yes, Hindu Astha, but it is Canadian citizens there. On the other hand, the message written on it, messages are secessionist and challenge the sovereignty of Bharat. So whose responsibility is it to bring these vandals to book? And should the Indian High Commission also weigh in?
The local authorities are investigating. They will continue to investigate as they have been doing on the recent hate crimes against temples. See, we have to look at it in the broader context of the global rise of India. Indian growth as an economic power, as a military superpower, is bringing forth the anti-India elements to the forefront. The envy that the Hindu Canadians and the people of Indian heritage enjoy, whether in politics like the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom or the Vice President of the United States or the leaders of big technology companies in the world, there is a degree of envy. All these are joining together and that is getting reflected in events like this. I have urged all levels of authorities from the municipal level, the provincial level and the federal level to take very serious note of this and take appropriate action.
My question again, Mr. Arya, is the Indian High Commission there doing enough? Is it engaging with the Indian diaspora? And is there enough pressure being built? Also, does the Canadian government now have to take a call? If they look at India as a friend, should they then allow enemies of Bharat a free run?
Two things. Indian High Commission, from what I observe as an Indo-Canadian, they have been very active. They have been very engaging with the Indian diaspora here. With respect to Canada, Canadian government is very clear on the territorial integrity of India, the unified India. There is a support. However, action has to be taken against this vandalism, against this hate attacks. There is no excuse. There is no politics in not taking action against any of these groups.
My final question to you is, do you see these attacks increasing, or do you believe that if they are nipped in the bud, they will be arrested?
Two things. As I mentioned, there was a very authoritative university study in North America that identified early last year that the Hindu phobia is a real phenomenon on social media. It had also predicted that these online attacks will get converted to physical attacks. And what we are seeing is a series of attacks. First, there was an attack on Vishnu Mandir. Then there was an attack of a BAPS Sri Swaminarayan Mandir. There was even an attack on Lakshmi Narayan Mandir in British Columbia. And now there's an attack on Gauri Shankar. So this is a series of things that is getting escalated. And it is high time for all the authorities to take cognizance of this increase in attacks and to take appropriate action.
But partners in the coalition, political entities who harbor these secessionist designs, they seem to be holding a lot of sway. Will the government be able to take, will you be able to ensure that such vitriol is not allowed to be spread? Or do you believe that India also needs to engage diplomatically with Canada to sort this out? My final question, Aryaji.
The government of Canada is very clear. They equally condemn the Hindu phobia acts as they condemn the Islamophobic and anti-Semitic acts. Government of Canada recognizes and upholds the integrity of people of all religious faiths, culture, and heritage. And yes, I need Government of Canada and the governments of all different levels to take very serious note of this increase in trend of Hindu temples getting attacked.
It should not happen, and let us hope that nations work together along with the communities to put an end to this. Mr. Chandra Arya, thank you for your time. Good to speak with you.
Thank you so much for having me here.
So that was Canadian MP Chandra Arya, not just condemning, but also saying that this is a building up. This has been building up, and nations, governments need to wisen up to this design. On closer home, we expect the MEA to also weigh in, not just with Australia, but also with Canada, to ensure that Hindu Astha is not at the receiving end of hate against India and secessionist designs engineered by the enemy right across the border. Moving on here on the Nation at 5, and it's been a startling revelation that was made by retired Lieutenant General Kuldeep Singh Brar, who had led Operation Blue Star back in '84 to flush out terrorists from the Golden Temple in Amritsar. He said late Prime Minister Indira Gandhi had allowed the leader to grow into a sort of a Frankenstein monster and then take him down when he reached the top. The former general made a comment while speaking with ANI and its editor Smita Prakash, and it was during a podcast, and he said, and I quote, Indira Gandhi allowed him to become a Frankenstein. He went on to say that they allowed this cult of Bhindranwale to continue, and there was total breakdown of law and order in Punjab.
No one wants an operation, but what do? Do you allow Indira Gandhi allowed him to become a Frankenstein? You could see Bhindranwale every year what was happening, but when he reached the pinnacle, now to finish him off, now destroy him, it's too late.
Smita Prakash, editor ANI, is with us. Smita Prakash, editor ANI, with us, and Rajinder Kumar, former special director IB, also with us. Namaste and Jai Hind. Smita, were you surprised when Lieutenant General Brar made this revelation, or did it just echo what former RNAW officer GBS Sidhu has written in his book Khalistan Conspiracy?
Jai Hind, Anand. Well, it wasn't much of a surprise, but still, every time you hear it, it just shakes you to the core. That terror is allowed to be used as a state policy, something that we accuse other countries of, but at the same time we turn a blind eye when it happens within your own country. Everybody was aware in the 80s about how Bhindranwale was being propped up, he was being encouraged, and he had grown into being this monster. He was supposedly a saint, a sant, from a small town in Punjab, but he had gained so much of power, and he everybody was aware that by the early 80s, Khalistan almost became a possible thing that was going to happen, something that was carved out of your country. And it was allowed to happen. But it was like, oh, it's a matter of time before it happens. Just like in the 90s, it was like understood that at some point of time we might lose Kashmir. The point is that now it seems unthinkable. Youngsters who have grown up after the 80s, they can't fathom that something like this would be allowed to happen. But that is a fact that at that stage we were at the brink of losing Punjab.
Rajinder Kumar ji, we see Bhindranwale posters in Australia, in Gurudwaras. It's happening in Canada. It's also happening on ground in Punjab. So has this this bug that was planted of secession by the enemy, has it really been weeded out? And does this also show that how politically devious certain entities were?
This is a Narasimhanji, this is a fact that there is a strong following of these Khalistanis in Canada, in Australia, in UK, USA. In fact, the ISYF, Bhindranwale's son is running ISYF. Son and brother are running ISYF, both based from Canada as well as from Pakistan. See, what has happened is that political parties and has used certain people and they promoted those people to counter the opposite force. This has happened in the case of trade unions in 50s, 60s and 70s. But this was the most dangerous attempt by the ruling party in 70 when they created this Bhindranwale. Bhindranwale was created to counter the Akali Dal. See, it was the feeling in the Congress party, particularly Mr. Indira Gandhi, felt that Akali Dal is getting too big for its shoes and it should be countered. So for that, they started promoting Bhindranwale. I will not name the person, but it is commonly known in Punjab, if you talk to the people who are 75, 80, that one professor of Punjab University was the person who basically brought Bhindranwale in the forefront.
Right.
Of course, unfortunately, that professor was also killed by the Khalistani militants. So, and this effort in the country has to pay a big price in the shape of prolonged militancy in Punjab, a prosperous state.
Along with the prolonged militancy, it was also the attempt to drive a wedge between Hindus and Sikhs, whereas Sikhi is an integral part of Hinduism. Pandit Satish Sharma on Twitter, Smita Prakash has put it beautifully, that if Hinduism is the lifeblood of Bharat, then Sikhi is the red. That's how integral it was. And then they drove a wedge, and it also affected the entire community. It affected communities across the board. Can we allow a redo of that? Are we seeing these trends? And what should the government do? Has the government actually got their approach to tackling this K problem, this once again being festered or foisted by the enemy? Have they got it right? Smita Prakash.
I think, Anand, what happens is that, there's this catchy phrase that history repeats itself, or one who doesn't learn from history pays the price of history repeating itself. These are catchy phrases which are used. History really never repeats itself. So we probably will not see another Khalistan movement like the kinds which were seen in 1980s. That was almost 40 years ago. So I think things have changed. Operation Blue Star, the way it was conducted, that kind of an operation which General Brar spoke about, those kind of operations are not done anymore. he has, remember, there's been he spoke in the podcast, he spoke about this assassination attempt on him. I mean, a 70-year-old retired general fought back two assassins in London. They four people tried to kill him, slashed his neck, his throat with a kirpan, and they tried to run away. They were caught, and after 15 years they were out. So, here is a general, and remember, he's always under threat. He himself says that I know one day I will die. They will get me at some point of time. And why does he say that? Because General Vaidya was assassinated. Anand, you and I will remember it. But youngsters today who are post-80s generation don't remember that. That a former Indian Army chief was assassinated in cold blood by Khalistanis after Operation Blue Star. This is something that we have to learn from history. That will never be allowed to happen again. That must never be allowed to happen again. So this, what the gentleman before me was speaking about this whole thing about politics and the Punjabi Suba and politicians encouraging it. So every politician first must be a nationalist, and after that should be politics. Nationalism should be at the core of all of us.
Well, I so wish it was, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be the case, and it's on manifest even now. Final word, Rajinder ji. I have running out of time, but yes, we'll just take one more minute. Yes, ji.
Narasimha ji, what happens is this type of clandestine operation, people plan, and it is not the only operation. Other places also, I will not name it unnecessarily. These have been planned. They have been badly planned, and then people don't visualize the repercussions which it will have.
Correct.
They really become Frankenstein operations. So I in my whole career of 40 years in the intelligence, I have ensured that never create a Frankenstein out of somebody. So you counter a group, not by creating another person or creating another group. That is the policy. And we have in this country paid a very heavy price in several places because of the stupidity of some people, some politicians, some leaders to create counter groups. So that is my point.
No, you make a very, very fair point, and there are certain aspects which are happening on ground and also across the world and on social media, which are bringing a sense of deja vu that this is how it started building up. My question still remains, has this government figured it out, or are they thinking that let history repeat itself, but we will deal with it differently and it will give us a different result? That's not going to happen. We've got to learn from the mistakes of the past and make sure this doesn't happen. Smita Prakash and Rajendra Kumarji, thank you very, very much for joining us. We're going to take a short break here on The Nation at 5. When we come back, we get you the latest. Where is the journey of the Shaligram Shila, which is en route from Nepal towards Ayodhya? Stay with us.